What's that one story you've always wanted to tell on our Reddit, but no one has ever asked the right question? Part 3. One summer night, I was trying to get the group of friends I was with to go and meet up with my other group of friends nearby who had started a hike. The weird part was that it was already 10 o'clock at night. We stopped to smoke with this kid Jay on our way. My friends decided they wanted to go to this guy J's house instead, and ditched the idea of hiking with my other friends altogether. I ended up driving alone into the mountains to meet my friends, but they had already long started the hike. Only one of them had service, and he told me they were already halfway up to the top of the mountain. For 2.5 miles I sprinted uphill through the woods across the super narrow path. In near complete darkness, I was surrounded by trees, rocks, and dense foliage on each side. Every 5 minutes or so my call with my friend would cut out, and I'd desperately start trying his phone over and over until it would go through again. I really just didn't want to feel completely alone. I used my iPhone's flashlight to the best of its ability. My phone was really starting to die. The whole time I swear I felt like I was being watched. The woods around me were so dark and I was most afraid of coming across a mountain lion. I finally reached them at 12:15. What had taken me 45 minutes to run out, they had taken 2 hours. The vibe was so much better once I reached them, and they even had a beer waiting for me. The rest of the hike went really smooth, but we nearly got lost on our way back down. I got back to my car at 2:30 that night and could barely feel my legs. My dad died 13 years ago in a motorcycle accident. I was 16 at the time, and he was living interstate with his new partner. Him and my mum used to keep in contact, but it would always end up in arguments over the phone. So one day he asks to borrow this old giant hat box my mum has full of family photos, way back to when my grandparents first got a camera. After a few weeks he sends it back, but my mum says it was missing a lot of photos, and she got really upset. So of course the young hothead I rang him and started yelling, saying things along the lines of "You haven't changed. You're still the same thieving lowlife. Pull your head out of your ass," things like that. He says he doesn't know what I'm talking about and says he put them all back. I carried on, and he just says, "Please son, I'm telling the truth." Then he says he'll talk to you when you have calmed down, and hangs up. That's the last time I ever spoke to him. The next day he kept trying to call, but I ignored it and wanted to make him pay. The day after that he died. Coming back from a ride he hit some old and him, and the bike slid right off the road and down an embankment. His partner was working in the garden or something like that if I remember correctly, and said she just felt her heart sink. She didn't know why. She said it was like someone grabbed her around her chest and squeezed all the air out of her. She said something told her to get in the car and go up the road he takes. About halfway up she saw 2 cars parked on the side of the road, and one lady had her hands on her head as if she couldn't believe what she had seen. She pulled over and saw him lying about 50 meters away on his back in a clearing, with some barbed wire trailing from about 30 meters away wrapped around his leg. And under him, there were scuff marks on some trees had hit on the way down and things like that. She got down to him, and he was still awake at that point. Apparently, he was pretty peaceful, just staring at the sky. I don't know if he died before or after the ambulance got there, or if he ever said anything. After I found out, I had to wait till the next day to fly out to get there, so I spent the night awake and it knowing what to do. I checked my email and saw I had one from him, sent the date. He was trying to call, but I refused to answer. In it he says he loves me and has sorry I feel this way. But then he says he had a dream the night we argued, and it made him feel anxious to get a hold of me. He described it to me. He was in a room full of people, all sitting at big round tables and talking amongst themselves. Then they all got up and began walking to this door. Dad said it was something beautiful, like a silver mist that glowed. People started walking through it. My dad tried to buy. A man stopped him and said, "He can't go in yet." My dad said, "Why not? I want to see what's on the other side." The man just said, "Soon, not yet. Let him know you love him." Then Dad woke up. He said he just wanted to say he loved me in the phone, but he'll try again tomorrow. I remember reading that and just feeling flat. I don't believe in God or anything spiritual. I don't know why, considering the dream he had. My favorite Tinder story. Dude and I match. Let's call him D for deadbeat. So D and I chat a bit. Has very good looking, smooth, casual. Tells me has divorced with 2 boys, 3 and 7. Says his ex-wife had an affair and he found out. Has a decent relationship with her and 50-50 its custody of sons. Tells me some other details about himself, including the line of work he's in and the business he owns. I agree to meet up with him for a drink a few days in the future. That day I'm on the phone with a guy friend and I tell him about this upcoming date. Say for some reason, I really just don't feel invested in this one. I kinda don't want to go. Tell guy friend details about the dude. He says, that dude sounds exactly like the ex of the girl I just started seeing. Is his name D? I'm like, nah, no way it's same dude. Send him a picture that he sends to her. Yup, it's him. But this is no ex-wife. This is ex-girlfriend with whom he just had a baby girl and abandoned them both. Refuses to pay child support or even acknowledge daughter. Has a serious drinking and cocaine problem. Real story about ex-wife is he had several affairs and she found out. He has not seen his two children from that marriage since divorce. Well, okay then. Not going on this date. But I'm pissed and feel like letting him know I'm not showing up is just to consider it. For this type of person. So I tell him to meet me at the bar at 6. At 5:55 I text and tell him he'll be a few minutes late and to grab a table and get me a beer. At 6:10 he texts and asks what's my add-up. I tell him I'm about to head that way and I'm sorry but I had to babysit for my friend's baby. And she was late getting home. At 6:30 he texts and asks if he's at the right bar and where am I. I text and say, oh man I'm sorry. I just couldn't leave that little girl I was babysitting. She's the cutest thing ever. Look. And then I sent him a picture of his baby daughter. I wish I had been there to see the reaction. Never heard from him again. This story was one of those legends passed down at college. I knew a guy who swears he met the guy involved. He was a really shy guy. Pretty unlucky with the ladies, never had a girlfriend. But really nice and hoping to meet a nice girl too. He went to a ball at another college and got himself pretty plastered but managed to pick up. And the girl asked him back to her room. He was over the moon and back they go. They make out in her bed for a while, but unfortunately he's a bit too drunk and falls asleep. When he wakes up he's still naked and the girl is nowhere to be seen. He gets up and tries to find his clothes and they are gone too. Hungover and utterly miserable, he realizes he's been duped. She never liked him. The whole thing was just a chance to pull some cruel joke. He wraps the sheet around himself and prepares to make the dash back to his own college. But he's feeling heartbroken and decides that it's time for revenge first. No one is going to make a fool of him like this. He makes sure the door is locked, then squats on her desk and lays an enormous, steaming, booze-fueled sloppy turd all over her homework. Satisfied with his work he leaves, where he runs into her in the corridor, bringing back his freshly washed clothes with coffee and bagels for them both. Once, I was late for a college class in my senior year. In that time, I took Uber. A lot. It was interesting meeting people from all different walks of life. One time, I met a driver who was a great conversationalist, kind of elderly, but I didn't think too much of it. He mentioned his military service, and I asked him when he served. He looked at me through the rearview mirror and said, "The Second World War. Bruh. Brew." I was kind of floored. Lol. I was honored to meet him. He immediately followed that up by saying that he was gonna turn 90 this year. This was in 2016. So he was born in 1926. He was in the Army Air Forces, before the Air Force was a thing. By the time he finished training, the war was winding down and he never got to see action. But he said he got over it. He gave me a lot of good life advice. He led a very interesting life, too. He was a retired attorney. I honestly wish that ride lasted a lot longer, even though the ride wasn't short. What with traffic and all. I hope he's doing okay. He was, far and away, the coolest Uber driver I had ever met, or ever will meet. Also, this guy had a ridiculously firm handshake. And I say this as someone who is known for having firm handshakes. This man's grip was fucking strong. When I was around 5 years old we had family over from BC. It was a hot-ass July and no one wanted to play outside in the July heat, so my cousins and I decided to play hide and seek inside. Little did they know I was a serious player of hide and seek, and I had found the best spot ever. So basically, underneath our dining table we have a large wooden footrest, and the tablecloth hangs off the sides of the table, so it is pretty hard to see underneath the table. So unless you knew it you would not be able to tell there was a footrest there. Anyways, back to hide and seek. I decided that the footrest would be the spot where I would hide, so I crawled under the table and on top of the footrest so it would be impossible to see my arms or legs under the table, unless you really stop to ground level to see. But me being the idiot I waited there for someone to find me and ended up falling asleep underneath the table for 2 hours. This is where shit hit the fan. Turns out my family thought I got lost or something and they called the police and had the neighbors looking to see where I was. The best part, I didn't get found out of my own decision to wake up. It was because my uncle sat on the table and, when he went to put his legs up on the footrest, he accidentally kicked my head. Good to know though, whenever my cousins come over, they remind me of how I fucked up so badly as a kid. My family caused a bomb scare at Disneyland. We eat lunch at the Golden Horseshoe. That place is the best, and then start making our way to Splash Mountain. We wait through the line and ride it, then start walking towards Tomorrowland. On the way by the Golden Horseshoe, we see it taped off with police tape with several security guards posted out front. We think it's odd, but we don't think anything of it. We continue walking towards Tomorrowland. Right as we were about to pass the Tiki Room, my mom suddenly realizes that my older brother isn't carrying the bag he was supposed to be. Immediately, he begin to freak out. We all run back to Splash Mountain, but it's not there. Then we run to the Golden Horseshoe. My brother, who is about 11 at the time, completely ignores the police tape and security guards, running right past them into the building. He rounds the corner and there is the bag, sitting under a chair at our former table. The table is surrounded by 2 rows of chairs, and they have a bomb-sniffing dog. They're doing its thing. Once again, heedless of the situation, my brother dashes for the bag and vaults over the chairs. Immediately, he is tackled by a security guard and pinned to the ground. The guards all surround him, shouting, "What are you doing? This is a restricted area," and the like. My brother breaks down crying, saying that we forgot our bag and he just wanted to get it back. Eventually my parents clear everything up and we leave the Golden Horseshoe. We finally go to Tomorrowland as planned, and the rest of our day is perfectly normal. I spit on a disabled girl. Well, I'm not sure if I 100% hit her, but this story haunts me every few weeks or so and I've wanted to tell it for a while. Freshman year of college, it's later in the fall semester so it gets dark pretty early. I'm going to my fraternity's chapter meeting around 7 p.m. and it's already dark. I typically put my earbuds in for longer walks like this, as the hall is a fair distance from my dorm. But it's important to note that I did not indeed have them in at this time. While I'm walking, I get the urge to discard some weird saliva in my mouth, so I turn my head a little to the right and spit. Little did I know, one of the disabled girls from my dorm, nonetheless, is coming up right behind me and, yup, you guessed it, passes me right as I spit. I honestly couldn't tell if Fanny hit her or not, but I remember her reacting to the fact that it was very close and, or hit her. I never heard her motorized wheelchair coming from behind or anything, so I was stunned by the fact that she was even there in the first place. It would have startled me if I looked behind me and saw her, let alone have her pass me without making a sound and spit. I slowed way down as the situation unfolded in my mind, and before I realized it, she was a couple dozen feet in front of me. I didn't even say anything as I was so taken aback by what just happened, and I realized if I would have just reacted immediately, this all would have gone away. To make matters worse, I saw her one other time. She was in the elevator and I had just walked around the corner. I visibly saw her eyes widen as she recognized her assailant, and I died inside as it happened. Before I could do anything, her elevator closed and she was gone. But like, what would I even say? Hey, sorry about that time 2 months ago on the sidewalk when I maybe spit on you. Not sure if I actually got you at all, but yeah, sorry, didn't know you were there anyway. That's one of the shittiest accidents I'd ever had. So, when I was younger, there were always persistent rumors that my sister and I had a half-sister that we never knew about. I already had 2 paternal half-siblings, but apparently there was another half-sister from a quick fling my dad had prior to meeting my mom. Anyways, flash forward to when I'm about 12 and my parents are in the process of divorcing. I'm at my cousin's house and he calls me over and shows me this girl's MySpace picture. He tells me, "You know that's your sister, right?" I'm obviously pretty confused and ask him how she's my sister and how he knows. He tells me that everyone knows. He tells me that during a trip back to his homeland, My dad met a woman who fell pregnant. He then never spoke to her again. The village was quite small, so the woman found out where my dad lived and migrated to Australia to try and contact him and raise her daughter. Apparently my dad wanted nothing to do with his child. Anyways, when in nearly 16, I go shopping with my younger sister. We're browsing through some clothes, and as I turn my head to ask my sister something, I see her, my half-sister. A million thoughts and emotions start flowing. I take my younger sister by the hand and walk up to my half-sister. I walk right up to her and say, "Hey, I heard you're my sister." She looks like she's 18 to 20 inches with an older woman. She looks my sister and I up, pan down, and looks to an older lady next to her, who begins crying profusely. The older lady tells us that we all look so much alike. My half-sister and I swap details and we leave while she consoles her mom. I go home and tell my mom that I met my half-sister today. She's obviously super confused, but asked me where I met her, so she clearly knew about her. She tells me that my dad has always known about her but wants nothing to do with her, so they've never met. My mom apologized for not telling us sooner, but she didn't know if it was her place. I see my dad a few weeks later and tell him what happened. He tells me not to believe everything I hear. Fast forward 10 years. My half-sister is one of my closest friends and a huge part of my life. I now have 2 nephews and a niece whom I love. There has never been a DNA test or anything, but I can't explain how similar she is to my siblings and cousins. My dad has never spoken to her, and similarly my half-sister wants nothing to do with him.